Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about this. This is a brand new, relatively, Sega Dreamcast game. Before we get into the details of it, yes, first of all, the Sega Dreamcast, my favorite game console of all time, still gets brand new games every once in a while. But, and I know you guys have heard this a million times if you watch this series, but if you're brand new to it, these games are not made by Sega, they're not published by Sega, they're not endorsed by Sega. But Sega doesn't care if people make new games for the Dreamcast. These games are made by independent developers and publishers, and their motives are different, but a lot of the times it's, you know, somebody's really passionate about the Dreamcast and they want to bring a game to it. Other times it's just, well, we're making our game and it's easy to port it over to the Dreamcast, so let's just do that. This one, I always say this, but a lot of them have unique stories, and I find that interesting. This is also an interesting one in my opinion. This game, Volgarr the Viking, is a game I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. But before we go into the true details of the history of this release, I do want to give a big shout out to PixelHeart. They sent me that it's absolutely free for the purposes of review, so that was really cool of them to do. My buddy Phil, who runs the company JoshProd, was like, "Yeah, man, I got you. I'll make sure we take care of that." So JoshProd, who as I just referenced there, is the publisher of this game, or this particular version, I should say. And he is basically been the guy who's made like every single Dreamcast game for like the last 3 years. And it's with very few exceptions in there. I mean, I think the last one he didn't do was Alice Dreams Tournament. And the next one up, or well, it's already out now at the time I'm recording this, but Xenocrisis he had nothing to do with as far as I know. But really, for the last 3 years, it's just been him going it alone. So, yeah, he finally got this game out there. Now, the thing is, this is not a 2020 release. This isn't even really a 2019 release. It kind of is. But here's the thing. Volgarr the Viking is a game I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, and it actually came out in 2013 originally. It came out on Steam, I believe, first, and then was ported over to multiple platforms, all digital. The Wii U, the Vita, the PS4, the Xbox One. It was actually the Xbox One games with Gold game at one point. And eventually it got a Nintendo Switch version. But there was no physical edition. This is the only physical edition of Volgarr the Viking ever produced, is the Sega Dreamcast version. So how did that happen? Why would a modern developer make a game for all those consoles and then be like, you know what? Dreamcast 2. And also, it's the only one that gets a physical edition. It's not exactly how it went down. Basically what happened is they did their official version, and one of the developers, who I guess he had left the company, I believe his name is Mark Hall, he just took it upon himself to just port the game on his own. He just decided, I want to put it on the Dreamcast. I don't know why I want to do that, but I want to do that. So he just thought, hey, why not? So he ported it over to the Dreamcast, and then, you know, he presented it to the team, and they were like, this is incredible. We can't sell this, but this is awesome. So they're like, it was a completely sanctioned, retroactively, port of to the Dreamcast. It's unofficial in that sense, but it was ported over, and what they decided to do was to release it as freeware. So in 2015, suddenly, out of nowhere, the Dreamcast version was not only announced, but it was like, and here it is. So they just gave away the ISO. So what that meant was you could download the game, and at the time, more accurately, you would have burned it to a disc, pop it in your Dreamcast, and just play it. That was the idea. However, now, if you were to do that, you would probably use a GDMU if you're in that, if you have one of those, of course. But still, it was cool. The game was out there, but there was no like legit official release like this. There kind of sort of was one shortly after that. There was, and I just a footnote in history on the story of this game, but in, I think it was either really late 2015 or more likely 2016, there was a German video game forum that decided, hey, you know what? This is considered freeware. There's nothing stopping us from just taking the discs, having them pressed on CD-ROMs, and calling it a physical edition, making our own artwork, and just making, like, you know, some copies. And so that's exactly what they did. They ended up making 100 of these. Now, I only heard about this like a couple months after it happened, so finding one was totally impossible, but my understanding is they did 100 copies. You had to speak German. The forum was like, nobody spoke English on there. Everyone just spoke German. They also only shipped to German addresses. So it was highly unlikely that an American who didn't speak a word of German, well, other than like Volkswagen, who didn't speak, which is useless, who really didn't speak German, there was no real way I was going to be able to get that. Plus, it was honestly, it was a very unofficial release. It was just something some guys on a forum decided to do. The reason they could is Germany, I've noticed, is very laxed on CD-ROM production. Most of the discs that I've noticed over the years, the Dreamcast discs, I'm not saying this one necessarily is or even indicates it, but a lot of them, like I've looked up, you know, they always have, if you look on the inner ring of the disc, you'll see like numbers and, you know, brands and stuff. Sometimes I've looked those up, and almost always they're based in Germany. There's just, for some reason, I don't know what that reason is, but for some reason, it's really easy to get discs pressed in Germany for relatively cheap, as opposed to most countries. So a lot of them are produced there. So that made a lot of sense to me after the fact. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I won't be counting that one as awesome as it would be to get, but oh well. Now, fast forward to 2017. I didn't know this. I only heard about this the other day when I asked Phil for information on this. But what he told me was, in 2017, he actually tried to get a hold of Crazy Viking Studio and be like, let's do a Dreamcast edition. That version you guys made is great. You've sanctioned it. I'm a Dreamcast publisher. Let's work together. You guys can make some money off of this, and we'll get it done. And they at first were on board, and then they realized they couldn't due to some sort of exclusivity deal. I don't know what that exclusivity deal was. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that the game was an Xbox Games with Gold game. That's pure speculation. I don't know that. But he didn't give me the details. All he said was that in 2019, they changed their tune, and finally they were able to do it. So in 2019, actually over a year ago from this point, the Dreamcast version by Phil, JoshProd, was finally released. So why are we talking about it right now, a year later? Well, he only released the PAL version. And when I say PAL, I mean purely cosmetically. It was meant to look like a European Dreamcast game as opposed to a North American or Japanese one. But it's purely cosmetic. The disc is region-free. There's no 50 hertz, 60 hertz problems or anything like that. It's just, it worked no matter what. It looked like a European version. And he basically said, like, you don't need to bother with that one. I'll wait till we have the American version. And I was like, it's fine, makes no difference to me. A few months later, the Japanese version comes out, although it's kind of in small numbers and it's hard to get. Now, the Japanese version is this version. Like, they're essentially identical. The only difference is that the front artwork is just packaged backwards. So in this case, it's packaged with the American art style on display, but the Japanese art style is on the back. So it's just a matter of flipping it, basically. But for whatever reason, they got the Japanese ones out first. And then it wasn't until this year where he was like, okay, the American ones are finally done. I don't know exactly why it took so long, but that is what happened. And so now you have the full-on American, if you want to call it that, version of the game, which again is, like I said, it's just a manual flip from the Japanese version. And the back is still the Japanese style, which is typically how JoshProd does that. But that's basically the history of this particular release. So taking a look at it, like we already saw the cover art there, and as I said, the cover art is reversible. Inside, you can see the manual. It's got just some images of previous games like ARMS 7, Magic Pockets, and has the control layout, then some credits. It's very, very thin. And then you move on and you see Japanese controls, and then you see some more ads for games, Captain Tomaday and Finding Teddy. Both games, all those games I've actually done videos on in the past. And then you can take a look at the disc. As I said, this is a CD-ROM. This is not a GD-ROM like the Dreamcast originally used. You can't get discs produced on GD-ROMs anymore. Like, that hasn't been a thing for well over a decade where that was even possible. But the disc itself is a CD-ROM, so it's not a CDR. It's not like somebody just put this, like a blank CD in a computer and burned it and said, yeah, I'm charging you money for this. Like, no, like I said, this is pressed in a factory. This is all very nice. And on the back, you've got, or behind the disc, I should say, you've got more additional artwork and so on. Very, very cool. It's a very nice release, and it's a cool game. I played a bit of the Xbox One version. It's a cool, like, 16-bit hack and slash, side-scrolling hack and slash. They say it's very much meant to pay homage to the Genesis or Mega Drive, and I would say probably mostly inspired by, like, Altered Beast. At least that's how it starts off anyway.
Alright, let's check out some gameplay from Crazy Viking Studios. It's a cool logo there. So, alright, there's the title screen. This is a little bit of interesting. There's a nice little homage to, like, Altered Beast right there. I think that's what it was. To start the game, you just start walking to the right. If you don't do it, it does tell you that that's what you're supposed to do, which is kind of interesting. I don't ever show it, but there is like an options menu and stuff. In order to do it, you just have to press start, and that'll give you various options. As you can see right there, it kind of holds your hand a little bit, explains a little bit about what you're supposed to do, and then it very quickly abandons that very friendly attitude once you've learned like literally just this screen, and then all of a sudden it just kind of throws you right into it. So you just go around like slaughtering stuff. You have spears, you've got, you know, your sword, and it might look on the surface, it might look easy, but it's not, man. It gets overwhelming very quickly, which is definitely the point. This is a throwback type of game. Like, the idea here is just to learn patterns, because you really only get like 2 hits, maybe a third if you can find the right type of power-ups and all that. But yeah, it's old school in that way. It's really, really fun, but I cut out a lot of the parts of, frankly, of me repeating, because that is part of the gameplay, is that it's unapologetically hard. But I also figured that wouldn't be the most interesting thing to keep watching the same sequence of failure. But I just wanted to give you guys like a great sense of what this game looks like. I think it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you like Volgarr the Viking, the Dreamcast version of it is fantastic. The only other version I've played is the Xbox One version, but it seems incredibly faithful. So yeah, I would check it out if I were you, if you were interested at all. The link will be in the description to PixelHeart. You can pick this up, or, you know, other games or whatever you want over there. But yeah, I'm gonna include that for sure. And I'll catch you guys up. Catch up with the rest of you guys at the end of the. Catch up with you guys at the end of the video. Hey, I'm back. So, just to wrap things up here, I just want to say once again, check out the link in the description if you're interested in the game. Thank you very much to PixelHeart for hooking me up with this, and JoshProd for making it, well, Phil specifically for getting this all done. Of course, Mark Hall, who I don't know, but thank you very much for the effort of getting this great game onto the Dreamcast. I think that's very neat. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that great stuff. Check out the social media stuff in the description. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all later.